A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase. I'm hoping at some point that these sheep are going to stick themselves in a more agreeable position for my photo. More in the middle of the field, basically. I'm having a bit of a time of it this morning, if I'm honest. I think I've mentioned on this channel before that one of my favourite ways to scout is to use Google Street View. And then anytime I see something remotely interesting that I think could be a photo, I will pin it. But I've been to several of those pins so far this morning here near Llangollen. And each time I've arrived, I've thought, what was I thinking here? This is the first one where I can sort of see what I was aiming for. And I've arrived as the sun is just about in the right spot. The sheep are not, but hopefully in the fullness of time they'll move. Anyway, while I'm very patiently waiting for these sheep to arrange themselves a bit more photogenically, what I thought I'd do is talk about the title of this video and the only true focal length and what on earth that means. So this lens, as you can hopefully see, is a 43mm lens. And why is that important? Why is it that I'm suggesting that that is the only true focal length? Well, if you were to take this lens off of this camera, which you can't do without massively voiding the warranty because it's a fixed lens camera, but let's say you were so bored and rich that you decided to do it, you hacked off the lens, you'd find a full frame sensor. And if you were also so bored that you decided to measure that sensor, you would find that the diameter is 43mm, which is true of any full frame sensor. And what that means, maybe. Still no, I think, to be honest. I mean, sheep are famous for following each other, so wanting them to disperse evenly is probably a bit of a stretch. Where was I? Focal lengths. People like me, mostly me probably, to be honest, get ourselves all tied in knots trying to talk about focal lengths that replicate human vision. Because human vision is very complicated. Most of us are lucky enough to have two eyes. Those two eyes move, and so trying to talk about a field of view that replicates what those eyes can do, I think is tricky. However, the beauty of 43mm, or anywhere really between 40 and 50 I find, is that things look as big and as far away as they do in real life. And so while 43mm, or between 40 and 50, while they don't necessarily replicate the field of view of human vision, if I take a photo and then I pull the camera away from my eye, things look the same as they do on the camera. And that is what is so attractive to me as somebody who, as I was talking about last week, I love the idea of trying to shoot scenes that look as though we could have seen them with our own eyes. And so 43mm is incredibly attractive to me. It's why I jumped at the chance to have a Hasselblad, because it came with a 55mm lens, which full frame equivalent is 43mm. And it's why, after selling an awful lot of gear recently, I've decided to buy this Leica Q3 43, which I won't really be talking about as a camera for a good while. I'll be shooting with it today and probably in other videos, but I'm going to wait until I've had a good amount of time to play with it to give an opinion on it. But yeah, that's why I'm so interested in 40, 50, 43. It's because while it doesn't necessarily give the field of view that we see as humans, it gives the magnification that we see as humans. And that is probably the best way I can describe the advantages of shooting, again, between 40 and 50mm. And no, you don't need a dedicated Leica to do it. Pretty much any standard zoom can shoot at 43mm, or the equivalent if you're using a different sensor size. But yeah. So that's that. Let's try and get some photos now. Well, I've now come into Llangollen, which isn't quite as orange as I was hoping for. Still lots of leaves to turn, but that's okay because currently the light is absolutely glorious at this cemetery. Without sounding too morbid, I'm always quite reassured when I see and feel how relaxing cemeteries are. They're calm. I was here a few weeks back with Rick Bebbington, and I really loved this scene, particularly with flat light, and fortunately the sun has just gone away for a minute, so that works well. There's a photo here somewhere, a little bit closer than I am now, I suspect. This is Chirk Aqueduct, and I've not been here before, but it looks promising, maybe. Not too sure about the light. Sun's over there. Good work. Safari couldn't open the page, fantastic. I'm doing some Googling because I've just seen a train go across this one, and so I wanted to check what that's called, given that I've just seen that. Viaduct, I think, but I could be wrong, so I wanted to check before I sounded completely stupid. But I've said it now, so if I've got it wrong, the stupidity has already happened. But I think this one's a viaduct, and the one behind it is the aqueduct. In any case, this is completely the wrong place to stand to take a photo because, well, the sun is directly behind you, and therefore there is absolutely no shape to any of these shapes. So I think the way to shoot it from this side is to head over this way and shoot back towards this way so that the sun is at 90 degrees. Whether or not there's anything interesting to shoot from over there this way, I don't know. It might, for the third time today, depend on the position of the sheet, but we'll go and give it a go. Shoot the viaduct. I think it's a viaduct. Well, I did stick around in Chirk for the remainder of the day, but I don't think I got too many photos that I like. The light was tricky that day, and there were periods where I was quite happy with it, like when I was at the church, but for the most part, when it gets to autumn, I don't like warm light as much as I do at other times of year, purely because if you've got warm light bouncing off of warm foliage, warm hues in the trees, I just think that looks like overkill, and I think it's better to have cold light that therefore complements the warm colours, and hopefully next week that's what we'll have when I go and shoot the next video. This was actually a bit of a tricky video to film. This was the second time I've tried to film it. Last week I was in Anglesey attempting to film this video, and I spoke for 9 minutes straight about focal lengths and 43mm, which even me, as somebody who is obsessed with this subject, thinks is way too much. And I couldn't figure out how to splice it all up, so I just thought I'd go and try and film the video again. But I did get a couple of nice photos in Anglesey, and I did a good bit of scouting, and I'll head back there soon when conditions allow. Yeah, but I'm going to commit from now on to not speak about focal length for a good period of time, I think, because I've spoken about it way too much recently. But in short, if like me, you enjoy the prospect of trying to photograph scenes in something akin to the way that you see them with your own eyes, then focal length is a good lever to use in order to help you do that. And shooting at focal lengths like 43mm, or even 35 at the wide end or 50 on the long end, because in those instances the amount of magnification is still pretty small, you can often get a look that is similar to how we see the world. And that's, as I've spoken about at length, particularly in the last video, exactly what I'm aiming for. So I'm looking forward to getting to know this camera, and as I said, I'll talk about it in due course. Anyway, a huge thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next week. And a big thank you also to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. I have just updated my portfolio page with some new photos, or photos taken earlier this year, and I've been meaning to do it for a while. It took me no time at all. And like all things on Squarespace, it's drag and drop. It's very simple to use. You don't need to know a single line of code. And for photographers, I think a good website that you control entirely as a place to show your work is absolutely crucial. And so yeah, Squarespace is what I use to show my portfolio, and I have done for the past 7 or 8 years. It's also where I have my online store, where I sell my new book, my presets, my prints, all of that kind of thing. And frankly, me and my business could not live without it. So if you're a photographer and you'd like somewhere online to showcase your work in the way that you want people to see it, then definitely check out Squarespace and all of their templates. And you can do so with a free trial by going to squarespace.com. And after that, if you'd like to make a purchase, just go to squarespace.com/James to get 10% off your first purchase. And a huge thank you to Squarespace for their continued support of this channel, and to you for watching. And as I said, I'll see you next week when I won't be speaking about focal lengths, but hopefully there will be a few more clouds in the sky. See you then. Cheers.